everyone. Welcome to the Vega community call number 9. So just to recap, this is a monthly call where we talk about things going on in the Vega ecosystem and slightly beyond. Today we have Tamlin, who's going to give us a tour of the Vega Test Net featuring all the new exciting releases and what you can do and how to get involved. So if you are watching this on Twitch, please, and you have any questions, please write them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. If you're watching this at a later stage and you have some questions, please jump in our Discord and we'll answer them to our best ability. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tamlin.
Thanks, Christina. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our community call. Today, I wanted to take you through a little bit of a lightning tour of all the things that you can do on the Vega Test Net. Vega Test Net is quite a rich technical showcase of the Vega protocol. There's a lot to it. So without further ado, let me share my screen and play a little bit of a presentation that I have for you. So I thought we'd focus on just 4 fantastic things that we can do with the Vega Test Net. Each of these things on their own is a whole big topic, and I will be sharing this presentation after in our Discord, and it will include links for each of these 4 things, how to get more involved, hear more about them, get more resources, and see other videos that do deeper dives into each of them. So this is a bit of a whistle-stop tour for an update on where we're at with the Vega Test Net. So just to recap, what is Vega for? So Vega is it's a protocol and it's a blockchain that's been designed from the ground up for the specific use case of trading. It operates as a sidechain to major collateral blockchains, and the first integration that you can find in the Vega testnet is a bridge to Ethereum. And of course, because it's a testnet and this is not about any sort of using any real money or assets, the way to use it is through a bridge to Ropsten. So how to just sort of very lightning sort of tour of what it means to connect and use Vega. So what happens is participants will lock up collateral on the collateral bridged blockchain. So in this case, as we said, it's sort of Ethereum or Ropsten. Actually, on the Vega testnet, we have 4 smart contracts with assets on them on Ropsten that also have faucets. So they give you some free testnet collateral to practice trading and using the Vega protocol. And then the Vega protocol is, as we said, a blockchain, and it runs fully permissionless, very fast and very capital efficient derivatives markets. And the first implementation is cash settled futures. So when you hop onto the Vega testnet, you'll see a bunch of markets. They're cash settled futures markets. So just keep that in mind. They're not spot markets. They're not options markets. They're cash settled futures markets. And that leads to the next point, that what the Vega testnet also showcases is that any participant may use the built-in permissionless markets functionality toolbox to propose, create, and launch and run and operate new markets on anything. So that when I say on anything, what I mean by that is cash settled futures markets are settled using data at a point in time. And so any data really can be used. So if there's something that fluctuates, perhaps it's some kind of, I don't know, internet traffic measure or pollution index, or, really it can be as big as your imagination as to figuring out, what sort of market you might want to propose and play with on the Vega testnet. So how do you interact with the Vega testnet? Well, a prerequisite is you need an Ethereum wallet. You need that to be able to deposit and withdraw testnet collateral on Ropsten. If you're getting started, I recommend using something like MetaMask or any other Ethereum supported wallet. So we have I think we have some good sort of very intro videos for steps 1 and 2 here. Steps 1 or 2 is obtaining or creating a Vega wallet. So if you've got your Ethereum wallet already, you do need to obtain or create a Vega wallet. I say obtain because we are actually running a hosted wallet server, which is able to dish out some wallet credentials for you. It's easy to get the Vega hosted wallet credentials, and probably the easiest way at the moment is via the front end, so via the console. If you watch the Testnet Jam video that I did from Thursday last week, you can see me demonstrating that. It's really easy to do. If you just go to the testnet.vega.trading and go into where you're going to connect a wallet, where it says hosted wallet, click into that and it'll show you, there'll be somewhere a call to action to create a new one if you don't have one already. You can also download and run your own wallet. This is a little bit, it's not for the faint-hearted, but it's obviously a really important part of the system going forward. So we have some really great videos that have been created for that, which I will be linking in the presentation. So if you want to get started on that, that's pretty easy to do. And then once you have your wallet sorted out, the next thing is, of course, is all about interacting with the Vega Test Net. And so there are two primary ways, or two ways to do that. You can do that using the front end. There's a hosted version of our front end, which is called the Vega console. That's hosted at testnet.vega.trading at the moment. Or you can use the Vega APIs. So we have rich APIs and documentation supporting those, so you can connect with REST, gRPC, or GraphQL. I really recommend checking out not only the docs, but the links off the docs to the sample API code, where there's some Python and some shell scripts that can help get you started on that. Right, so now let's go on to the functionality. So what can you actually do on Testnet? And I wanted to focus on 4 fabulous things you can do. So firstly, obviously, trading. This is a blockchain designed for trading. I'm just going to walk you through some of the fun things to be exploring with trading. Also, liquidity provision. For anyone who's been watching our forums or our Discord lately, you'll know that we're really excited about the recent testnet release, which now showcases the liquidity provision. We're still adding a few final bits and pieces to that, but getting really close to that being a feature complete. We then have market creation. This is a governance action where any participant may propose a market, as I was saying earlier. And again, that's really fun to play around with. And then the 4th aspect is governance, and that's all about voting on things like new markets, but also voting on other aspects of the system, because ultimately Vega is designed to be a community-run trading network. So let's go on to the next one. So let's start with trading. So the thing about trading on Vega that's really going to be interesting to people who've done either professional markets trading, is a serious trader themselves, or done any DeFi trading. Because trading on Vega has been very, very carefully designed to be both capital efficient and safe. So on the capital efficiency side, there is something built into Vega called automated cross-margining. This is all about, so when you put a position on Vega, and remembering with futures trading, you go long or you go short a position. And that is all about whether you are believing that the market will go up. If you believe it will go up, you go long the market. If you believe it'll go short, you go down the market. Sorry, you short the market. If you believe it'll go down, you short the market. And if you, and of course, you may also use this for hedging. So it's not necessarily about your beliefs, but according to your trading strategy. So when you go long or short on a futures market, you get charged by the system what's called an initial margin. And if you get charged an initial margin, you get charged an initial margin, and then what happens is the system is monitoring the position against what's happening in the market. So if you go long at 100, the price is 100, perhaps you're doing a big, let's see, I can't even think of a market at the moment that's at 100. Back in the olden days, Bitcoin, US dollar market perhaps. And then if the price went up, it's going in your favor if you're long. So you're going to be receiving some money into your margin account. And what the system actually does is it monitors this and it releases that money back to basically a general pool of the US dollars coin, whichever coin is being used for the market, perhaps it's DAI. And then what happens is any other market that is also settling or being margined in DAI can utilize and draw down on that DAI. And so this margining system is, it basically, it gives you, it gives money to you or releases money to you when the position is going in your favor. And when it's going against you, what it does is it essentially automatically deducts money from your account to essentially do the opposite of the thing I just described for anyone who was on the other side of the position. And so the network is very cleverly continuously monitoring the entire market, and not just the one market, but then all of your markets. And so you get this collateral that's being automatically sort of moved around the different markets. And that's called cross-margining. It's very handy. It's very good for trader experience. If you want to trade on an isolated margin, you simply just need to trade using different keys for the different markets. So that's automated cross-margining. I highly recommend you play around with that. Please don't hesitate to ask any questions. What you'll see is on the front end, if you on the positions view, once you open a position and you can hover over or I think click on the margin deployed for that position, it will show you something that looks like this little image here, where you can see what the current margin deployment requirement is, and then whether it's going up to the release level or going down to the like the level where it's going to collect search basically from your general account to protect your position. And then of course, if you do run out of money, you may get down to your maintenance level. At this point, we have a very sophisticated liquidation mechanism that atomically liquidates the position on the market. So that's a really important aspect of trading to explore. Be really interested to hear how you guys find it from a trader experience perspective and from a capital efficiency perspective. And another important aspect of trading on Vega that you'll notice if you spend any time on the testnet is price monitoring auctions. So I took this little screenshot from our testnet earlier, and it was a Bitcoin US dollar was in a monitoring auction. Actually, this was in a liquidity monitoring auction, which is also operational on Vega at the moment. They're both protective auction mechanisms. So what happens is most of the time, the markets are in a what's called continuous trading, which is where they're operating using a limit order book. If you want to know how limit order book works, again, check out the Testnet Jam from Thursday last week. But when the limit order book is not going to work for any particular reason, or it's not going to be the best price determination method, that might be because there's a sudden move in the market, and it's important that the system can just slow the market down temporarily, allow the market to aggregate information on what the true market price is. This could be the case in either low liquidity or in the price moving drastically. So again, I highly recommend you have a play around with the price monitoring auction. See if you can put a market into price monitoring auction. Of course, this is all test collateral, so you can call the faucets, get a bunch of money and see if you can swing the market this way and that. Another thing you can do is play around with the parameters that dictate how sensitive the market is to being in a price monitoring auction. So if you are going to propose a market, you can do that. I believe we also have the ability to propose a change to a market's parameters now as well. If we don't have that in currently, it's imminent. So yeah, please get experimental. That's what the Vega Test Net is all about. And so yeah, understanding how and why these have been designed and implemented the way they have been, I think really help you understand what the Vega Test Net is all about. Okay, so then the second thing to play around with on the Vega Test Net, which I know is exciting a lot of people, is liquidity provision. So liquidity provision is a mechanism that we've designed to attract liquidity providers to markets on Vega. And And so the rough way that it works is that any participant can decide to commit liquidity to any market. And I think that's really important. It means it's a completely open system for liquidity. In that one single transaction, the participants, they nominate an amount of liquidity commitment, they submit an order book set. It's basically, we're calling it a shape. It basically shows how a trader or how the liquidity provider wants, how close the liquidity provider wants their liquidity commitment to be to like the mid price of the market. And this actually uses pegged orders, which I forgot to say earlier. If you're playing around with trading, another great thing to play around with is the pegged orders as well. So you can now, it's an order type that's really quite a sophisticated order type. It's not even across, you know, all of the major traditional exchanges as far as I know. So highly worth checking that out. What it basically allows traders to do is have an order atomically repriced when the market is moving, which of course can be useful when new information is changing the market prices. So yes, the liquidity provision mechanism uses pegged orders, but basically what happens is liquidity providers provide this sort of shape, let's say, as I said, and the system will automatically then reprice those orders for them. So what that means is the network is really helping automatically manage the obligations. So say you put a liquidity commitment on, and then I don't know, you have to step away from the liquidity commitment for a while. Maybe your computer goes off, you know, yeah, for whatever reason, you lose connection somehow to the network. Doesn't mean you're defaulting on your obligation. So again, we're thinking of the sort of trader / liquidity provider experience there. And then, you know, as a liquidity provider, you do need to manage inventory risk. So this is not a passive liquidity provision mechanism. It's not like, you know, sort of staking money in a pool and kind of being hands off. This is akin to being a market maker on a, you know, like centralized exchanges run order books. So that's an important thing to note, and it's definitely a great idea to experiment and play around with that while it's a testnet. And then, I've written that twice, managing inventory risk, apologies. The other thing that you'll be doing, the last stop point, and I'll edit this before I post the presentation, is around the good side, which is that you then collect fees, and you collect a portion of the price taker fees of the market as a reward for the liquidity provision that you're creating. And you get, actually, even as a liquidity provider, get to have a say in the size of that reward, or at least you basically nominate a fee level when you place your liquidity provision transaction on the network, and that can influence. It basically, the system uses a Dutch auction to work out how much liquidity, how much liquidity is needed is kind of estimated using a particular algorithm by the system, and then the fee is set to be the cheapest fee that can cover that amount. Doesn't mean that you can't still provide liquidity even if you put a really high fee in, but it just helps to set an efficient fee level. So yeah, I really recommend, again, playing around with that. There are some fantastic videos that explain this mechanism. Barney did a community call, I think a couple of months ago now, that introduced the concept. It's worth looking through our YouTube for that, or I can link it. I will link it in the resources. And then David did a testnet jam a couple of weeks ago, which was a nice hands-on walkthrough using our APIs. And you can see, I think actually, this is actually a GIF where we're running here a submit liquidity transaction, and you can see the orders come through. That's a set of pegged orders, and you can see the fee bid. I'm the top one, 7C1A2. I put in a really high fee bid. That's very mean of me. Might not get too many traders wanting to trade the market if my fee is the one that wins. Right, so that's just a quick lightning tour of, or really an encouragement to check out the liquidity provision side. Please don't be scared of it. It's a lot of fun. Great. Then we have the market creation side of the testnet. This is all about using the built-in toolbox that the Vega software exposes for experimenting with the creation of new markets. So in order to utilize this, you really want to first, I think that the transitions are a bit funny. So the three black boxes here, they really, or shapes here, they kind of encapsulate or represent really what this toolbox is. So Vega has built-in products. You don't need to write your own smart contract code in order to create or launch a new market. It's actually very easy. You just nominate which instrument you're wanting and to base your market on. And as I said before, cash settled futures are currently the only option on Testnet, but you don't need to be worried about that because cash settled futures can there can be cash settled futures on anything. So you can have rainfall and oil and you know, the number of cats that walk up your street are really, you can be quite experimental with that. So you've got the built-in products of cash settled futures. These pro-grade risk models are really interesting to wrap your head around, but basically Vega also has built into it the same types of risk models, and in fact we believe even better than places like the CME or other you know, sort of major traditional exchanges. These risk models, the role of the risk models is to ascertain what margin should be being incurred by the network on the participants. And then the sort of next role of the network is the market management. So making sure that sort of the operations of the market, all of the things we showed you around, you know, running the order books, handling all of the post-trade things. So once you've opened a position, making sure that that position is marked to marketed, that it's the margins are still calculated correctly, that if you close your position out, your margin is released and you're able to use that elsewhere, all the way through to, you know, settling and expiring the market correctly. So that's the sort of market creation toolbox, let's say, because the reason it's a market creation toolbox is if you are a market creator, you don't need to go and rebuild or worry about any of this stuff. What the thing you really need to worry about or think about is the futures market that you're designing and looking to launch on the testnet interesting to our testnet community. So you want to go and involve the governance community, have a chat to them. That I've set up actually a GitHub called, it's an open GitHub on our Vega protocol GitHub called Market Proposals. And that's a place that you can go see what it takes to create a market proposal. So you can clone this or you can copy one of the existing market proposals, you know, fill out the details, but also worth going to the forums. We've also got a market proposals section there and involving the community in why this is a good market, you know, and why you've made the decisions you have. Why does it have the tick size it does? Why is it settled in DAI, for example? Why is it, you know, what is the data that's going to be the oracle for the final settlement? And then things like the price monitoring auction parameters that we talked about earlier. There's a lot of decisions to make if you're going to design and propose a new market on Vega, but there is a supportive governance community helping with making those decisions, and of course that includes myself and the others on the team as well. And then once you've designed your like market definition, and you can see over on the right where we've got this example of make a proposal, you can see the kind of fields that you need to prepare into the sort of blob of a definition. Once you've defined your market and you've got that sort of market definition, you then need to propose that as a transaction to the network. It's actually a governance transaction. And so the governance community will be voting for that, for or against that market proposal using on-chain governance. So that leads to the next section, which is all about governance. So on Vega's testnet at the moment, you could get yourself the voting token for the testnet. It's called T-Vote, and there is a faucet that you run. Don't worry that the amount of T-Vote that you get seems really small. I think it's like 0.000 0.001, but that's just the minimum amount of vote token, and that's all you need to be able to cast a vote for or against. So what can you vote on the Vega Test Net? You can vote on these new market proposals, as I mentioned in the previous section. If somebody proposes to change a market, like maybe they're proposing to change the minimum order size or one of those price monitoring parameters, you as a governance token holder can also vote for or against that proposal. Another thing that will get proposed on the Vega testnet will be to basically add assets to the Vega bridge. So the assets that are used for trading on Vega are, ERC20s and existing assets on Ethereum. I think it's any ERC20 at a minimum, and possibly Ethereum as well. But to use an ERC20, so if you want to create a market that settles in an ERC, particularly maybe it's a new ERC20, you'll just need to let the Vega network know about that, and you actually propose adding that asset or approving that asset on the bridge, on the Vega bridge contracts. So that's a particular governance proposal that then people can vote for or against on that. And the kinds of things you'd be looking for when voting for or against whether to add an asset is simply that the asset is appropriate for trading, given its sort of inherent properties. And then the third type of voting that you can do is for network parameter changes. So on the Vega is a system that is that permissionlessly runs end-to-end derivatives trading, and it's basically, there's a bunch of parameters, or parameterized, let's say, that in a way that there's a bunch of parameters that govern the behavior of the system. Trying to think of an example, but it might be things like the minimum participation rate for voting on a new market is a sort of network-wide parameter that says, well, look, we need, or maybe it's the minimum time for voting on a new market, and it might be like, well, we don't want to make that a tiny increment. We want to give people a chance to be able to vote, have time to consider a new market proposal. So that might get set to, I don't know, 12 hours or something like that. That's a network parameter. And those network parameters themselves can be proposed to be changed, because again, this is a community run network. So yeah, so how is the easiest way to vote? Actually, I think we can see over on this diagram on the right, just again, that mental model, like the off-chain, there's the off-chain bit that might happen on the forums, might happen in your own mind. It's about, these things of, do you think there should be a new market or an edit to a new market, new asset, edit to assets, or a parameter change? That all happens sort of off chain, and I would expect there's a bunch of conversation within the community around that. Then you make that proposal, and then there's this voting period for or against, and the proposal passes if sufficient number of people vote on the proposal, and of those number of people, a sufficient number of them were a majority. And actually, the amounts that the required majority and the required sort of amount that vote yes are themselves network parameters according to the different types of governance proposals. If you want to have a look at what those network parameters are on the console, if you go to the search bar and just type in network, I'm fairly sure, if you type in network, it'll bring up a view of our network, and if you scroll down, you can see a list of every single network parameter in the on the network at the moment. Okay, so how to vote. It's really easy to use the console to vote. So one of the views on console is a list of all of the latest proposals. You can see that over on the left. Sorry, I don't seem to be able to indicate with the mouse. I'm sort of just pointing where I can see, but bottom left, there's a screenshot of roughly what it looks like to have a list of proposals. And people will be able to, sort of see ultimately for or against how many have voted, and you'll be able to place your own vote pretty directly from that view. I think that this view in its richness isn't quite deployed yet. I might be wrong, but keep an eye out, it should be soon. Or if you go into the network parameters list that I was talking about, I think you may be able to vote for and against from there. Again, not sure if that's fully deployed into the current testnet version of console, but again, keep an eye on that. And then in the market details, so the market details are for each market. There's a view in the Vega console that gives you all the information about that specific market. A lot of it is the information that has come through the market proposal, like things like those price monitoring parameters. In that market details view, it surfaces the fees on the market and so forth. And it also surfaces a very handy little tool for voting for or against. If a market has been proposed and this details view is there for you to have a look at, you can vote for or against. So it's an easy way to scan up and down, have a look at the market definition, and if you think it looks good, vote for it. So that's the sort of whistle-stop tour of the 4 things that I think are the most, well, 4 very exciting and interesting things to check out, sink your teeth into. Don't hesitate at any point to ping us on Discord and just ask questions. There's a lot of thought and a lot of love has gone into this project. So yeah, please don't hesitate. We love talking about it. I'm going to stop now and I'm going to hand back to Christina to surface any questions. So I'll just stop sharing my screen. And thanks everyone for coming along today.
Thank you so much, Tamlin. That was awesome. So we had one question about when, I mean, you touched briefly on it, but when they could start voting.
When Vega what, sorry?
Start voting and like testing the governance protocol.
When can people start voting?
Mm-hmm.
They can start voting now. What's required to be able to vote is to have something to vote on. So the most common thing that you're going to see are new market proposals, because we love playing around with that as a team. I did just try and put some on the testnet recently, and are they ready? Yeah, if you go to testnet.vega.trading right now, there's a couple of new markets, a tree market and a tree May market. And I think someone else is putting a market on. AGC tree market, this is great. So, I mean, I can share my screen again and just show you this. So why don't I do that? And then I can show you voting on this. Can you see that? Great, so this is interesting. So we've had 3 proposals. You can see one was declined. That just means that I think this probably means that it was somehow misconfigured, or yeah, the market just wasn't open. I think that's the case with that status. I'll have to double check that. But these 2 are open, and that means they're open for voting. So if I click on the details of each of them, you can see it immediately brings up for or against. So if I were being a good governance citizen, I would investigate these very closely. I would figure out whether the risk parameters are set well. I would look at things like the tick size probably makes sense. The other things I would look for are, we don't have this just in this view at the moment, but what the data settlement of the market would be, so what the oracle doing the final settlement would be, and see if that lines up to the market that is being sort of named and proposed. So here I could vote for or against. So I'm just going to vote for on this. Let's hope that works. So yeah, it shows that I voted for. I can change my vote if I want, but I'm not going to. And then over here, you can see it shows that I voted for. It looks like 2 people have voted for. And we don't yet have that rich view that I showed you. It shows the percentages yet, but I know that that's coming really soon. And I'm going to just show you voting against, just for the fun of it. Okay, yeah, so I voted against. Let's see what changing my vote allows me to just change it. So why don't I vote for and see if that works. So there we go. And then if I go back here, you can see that both markets I voted for on. So they're the new markets. As I said, I believe, and perhaps someone else on this call can confirm this for me, but I believe that we can now vote on changes to, definitely can vote on changes to network parameters. So if you're interested in that, maybe we can show that at the next Testnet Jam, some of this governance voting. So we'll propose some changes and then do some voting on them. And I believe we can also propose changes to markets. And you'll remember the other thing I talked about was assets. So proposing new assets onto the bridge. And I know that that definitely is the case as well. So yeah, I think given that this question was asked, we'll definitely prioritize this in the Testnet Jam really soon and do some hands-on walkthroughs.
Awesome, thanks for that. Does anyone else have any questions? Anyone on the team that are here? No. Cool. Well, I'll make sure as well that we link all the resources that Tamlin mentioned in the call in the notes, that depending on where you see this will either be YouTube or from the forum. And yeah, thank you so much for doing this, and thanks for everyone tuning in, and
Thanks everyone.
see you next time.